Hi, my name is Jessica Corrado. I am 22 years old and I'm a major of sociocultural anthropology at Western University. Firstly, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which I am standing right now belongs to the Anishinaabeg, the Arawandran, and the Haudenosaunee Indigenous nations. Because although I'm going to be discussing Palestine today, I think it's really crucial that we understand that this country, and all of North America for that matter, was founded upon the brutal ethnic cleansing and genocide of Indigenous nations, and this is a settler colonial state. And if we're going to be supporting Palestinian solidarity, we also have to support the struggles and resistance of Indigenous nations all across the globe, including right here on our own soil. I guess for me, understanding the Palestinian plight in its full extent began about 3.5 years ago. I took a class on refugees and forced displacement, and my professor showed us a documentary one day called Occupation 101, which basically details the history of Zionism and Palestine from the late 1800s and onward, and up until present day. And that was the first time I ever really heard about what had gone on in Palestine. And I remember leaving class that day feeling numb, to the point I wasn't even paying attention in the rest of my classes that day. And I was just in shock that these atrocities had been committed against the Palestinian people for nearly 70 years, and nobody seemed to know anything, including those people around me. Nobody seemed to know the truth. And I was just in shock about that. And as I came to realize, the common discourse in North America surrounding Palestine and Israel is that it's been this ongoing conflict for thousands of years, and two people just at each other's throats, and they hate each other, and there's no hope of absolution. And what I've come to realize is that that couldn't be a greater lie, and it couldn't be more counterfactual. To make any kind of assumption that this is a conflict is completely false. It would assume that there are two equal sides combating each other with equal resources and equal power structures, and that's not the case. We have an occupier and an occupied, the latter of which do not have an army, they do not have any tanks, they do not have any jets, they don't even control their own borders in most cases. So how can you say that's equal? It's not. So what I urge you as citizens of the world, and most importantly human beings, to do is to please educate yourselves and to seek knowledge about this, learn the facts, speak to Palestinians about their experiences, about their lives, about their feelings, because as much as people talk at Palestinians, talk about them, and sometimes even talk with them, they never truly listen. Some do, I can't generalize, but many people don't listen to them, and that's something that we need to learn to do. Because as much as I or anybody else as non-Palestinians can discuss this, our voices mean nothing compared to that of a Palestinian as it pertains to their own suffering. Which brings me to my next point. As Canadians, please stand up against our government, who is supporting Israel right now, actually more than the United States, which is kind of scary. Please stand up and say not in our name. Not in our name because we don't support ethnic cleansing, we don't support genocide, we don't support settler colonialism, and we don't support racism, nor apartheid regimes. It's probably been one of my greatest shames as a Canadian citizen to see that the country I was born and raised in has been not only supportive of, but complicit in the ethnic cleansing and displacement of an entire Indigenous population for the second time in its history. One time should have been enough. It should have been enough, and we need to make it clear that both historically and present occupation is a crime, from Turtle Island to Palestine and everywhere around the globe. I think that within the West, the Palestinian narrative is something that has been largely ignored and misrepresented, as has the Indigenous narrative of the Indigenous peoples of North America as well. It's an act of colonialism, and unfortunately it has led to them being vilified and dehumanized until they're nothing but a mere caricature of this sort of savage other who doesn't deserve human rights, who is undeserving of our sympathies. And I think that's just so sad that we can some people think that it's justifiable to do that to another human being. And lastly, I think that it's important that we as citizens of the world say to the state of Israel, to Zionists and all those who support Israel's actions, and to the Israeli occupation forces, not the Israeli Defense Forces, because there's nothing defensive about brutalizing a civilian population who you've been occupying for 66 years. That enough is enough, and we will not stand for your actions, both past and present, and that we will continuously resist you until you cease. For every UN resolution and every international law that you violate, we will resist you. For the tears of every Palestinian mother cried over the body of her dead children that were killed by your American-funded bombs, we will resist you. For every Palestinian life who you reduced to collateral damage and whose children you call demographic threats in their own country, we will resist you. For every inch of wall and every brick of settlement that you construct illegally on their land, we will resist you. For every moment of every day that you illegally occupy and blockade the Gaza Strip and collectively punish its 1.8 million civilians, we will resist you. So know this, and we won't stop resisting until this ends and until Palestinians are granted the right to life. If there's one thing that I have learned from my time spent with Palestinians, it's the immense power of perseverance. And it's not only my responsibility, I feel, but the responsibility of everyone as human beings to raise our voices, not only for the Palestinians, but for all oppressed groups across the globe, and use our voices to stand up and condemn their oppressors. Because at the end of the day, despite the color of our skin, despite the religion that we may practice, despite our gender, despite our ethnicity or the language that we speak, we're all human beings, and we're all entitled to the right to life and the same fundamental human rights. And despite the humiliation and the retaliation and the threats sometimes that we might face doing so, it's worth it. So that being said, my name is Jessica, and I am Palestine.